Hello, everyone. I'm here with Rody Vonk, and Rody Vonk is a innovation and design thinking specialist and expert. And I'm going to be talking with him today about some really key insights that you can use in your company or in your current role to implement design thinking and change management and innovation into your specific organization. So hello, Rody. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Very good. Rody is currently in the Netherlands. Whereabouts are you from in the Netherlands?
I live in a city called Leiden, which is like 30 minutes southwest of Amsterdam. It's a
Fantastic.
little bit like Amsterdam with the canals, etc., but a little bit smaller.
Okay, and I am from sunny South Africa. We're all the way at the bottom of the world, on opposite ends of the world, which is quite
Almost, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But that's the great thing about learning and engaging with people who are specialists and experts is nowadays we can do that. We can engage with people who are many miles away from us and still gain so much knowledge and insight and share and collaborate. And that makes life and business just so much richer, don't you think?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It's so easy to reach out to also for networking options and for me as well to get knowledge from people around the world and strengthen my programs by doing so. So that's definitely true.
Okay, Rody, so let's get right into it. The first thing that I want to ask you is what is the one, before we even talk about what design thinking is and what innovation really is, what is the one amazing result that you believe your customers, organizations, individuals, and organizations can get with design thinking?
Well, the key thing is that by using design thinking, companies and people can speed up their process of change or innovation, where a lot of times they get stuck sometimes in processes so old ways of working, which can be very I can put it like holding back innovation. So by using design thinking and the principles behind that and the way of thinking, people can really speed that up and come up with new product solutions, etc., much easier and much faster.
So, I've actually heard a really good quote that said, speed is the new currency of business. So it's really just about speed and being fast. But at the same time, I think you've mentioned to me that there's also a greater chance that design thinking will mean that you are successful in your outcomes, as opposed to trying something and then it may fall flat. So tell me a little bit about that, about design thinking, being a process that ensures success or almost I don't know, can you say guarantees success? Is that even an option?
Well, you can't always guarantee success, but what you can guarantee is that you will find ways not to do things. And what is key in innovation and change is, as we said, is speed. But the only thing to come up with a better or great solution is to allow yourself to fail, to make mistakes, or maybe you don't like to talk about fail, but then you can say, okay, I'd like to find out ways not to do it. And the faster you do that, and the quicker you find out what is not the right direction, the sooner you get to that better and great solution, which you can put to market. And whether it's a service, a product, or maybe an internal process that you want to improve or change, you can apply design thinking to all of those.
Well, that's a really great insight. So, very often I think, I mustn't fail. But you're so right. Failure is the key to innovation, but it's just about speeding that process up. Fantastic.
As long as it's smart failure, of course. You don't want to fail because you want to fail. You want to fail to learn and to improve.
Do you have a quick story to tell us or a case study of either an individual or an organization who has used design thinking and has seen some amazing results?
Well, actually, I can share two short stories. One is coming from an example from one of the companies, basically that is seen as to be the founder of design thinking, which is a company called IDEO from the United States. And they started off as product designers, but they started to use the way of working in their product design into also total different industries and total different levels in companies. So that's actually where design thinking came from. They've got a great example of a guy who did a training with them on design thinking. He was in engineering MRI scanners, and he was also always working on the technical parts of that. So once he was in a hospital when they had installed a new machine, and then there was a child coming in that room, and this child didn't dare to go into the scanner. And actually, this doctor that the engineer was talking to told him that he had to sedate 80% of the children to get them to go into the scanner. And this engineer was quite shocked, because he thought, we got an issue here, because I can work on the technical side of these machines, but if there's a specific audience that doesn't dare to go into the scanner, then we are overlooking something here. So he was trying to solve that issue, which is a non-technical issue. It's a psychological thing, an emotional issue. And after research, he came up with an idea based on also what they do in museum around child exhibitions, by getting children involved and more attracted to things they don't like. And he changed this whole room into the pirate's room. So the whole room is in pirate style, and the MRI scanner is a pirate chip, etc. And by doing that and creating a story parents can tell children a few weeks before they go to the hospital, the amount of children that had to be sedated dropped from 80 to 10% by only doing this. And what I like about the story, this also resonates with, is that innovation, or is it improvement, or is it change? It doesn't really matter what you call it. It is knowing who you are trying to come up with a solution for, knowing the problem, and come up with something that really resonates with the target audience. And that's also what we call in design thinking is human-centered design. So always have the people you're developing a solution for in the center of your process. So I think that's a great example what you can achieve with this way of working and this mindset. And I promised 2 stories. So another one, shorter one, is from a company that was creating paints, so to paint your house, for example. And they found that in the production line, if there's a mistake, employees can only address that when the next shift is coming in. So they work in shifts. And meanwhile, this failure will be in the process all the time. And this manager of this plant thought we have to create a mobile device which allows the workers to address that failure right away. And there was a lady coming in doing design thinking in this company and said, oh, wait a minute, before you sign this contract, you already almost signed a $500,000 worth contract for that. She said, let's observe the production line first. And they did for 1 hour. And within the hour, they found that the solution was not going to work, because these workers have these big gloves and glasses and big suits, etc. So they couldn't pull out a mobile device and address this failure. So the learning here, and the good thing is, it's not so much about the best solution. This is about preventing yourself from falling in love with a solution that's not going to work by observing and empathize with your target audience. So, and that's what design thinking is also all about.
I really like both of those stories. The first one, it wasn't necessarily about selling anything, but it was more just about getting the children to be able to go through an MRI scan. And, at the end solution was actually quite remarkable, because most of those children probably really enjoyed themselves, even though this was something quite serious that they were probably going through.
Well, there's also good that you say that, because the story goes that once they installed this, and this engineer came back into the hospital to look if everything was okay, he came up to a little girl that came out of that room, and he overheard her saying to her mother, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" So,
oh, that's fantastic. That's
exactly. That's what you want, don't you?
That's exactly what you want. I mean, even if you then relay that back to a product or an experience that somebody else is actually selling, that's what you want your customers to say. Can we come back tomorrow? Can I buy another one? That's the ultimate goal, I suppose. And then, the second story is fantastic too, because, nobody wants to waste money on something that's actually not going to work. And I'm sure there is just tons and tons, billions of dollars being wasted every year in organizations around the world with projects that are just not being used by, internal use, or products that are failing, or not, not even getting to market because of certain things. And you're saying that design thinking can prevent, most of those bad choices happening.
I hear that in almost every training. There is always someone coming up with a story like that. Like, okay, we have an idea, we start building it, whatever it is, whether it's a service or a product. And then after a couple of months and a lot of money spent, we find out that it's not working.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, almost in every training, I get stories like that. And actually, it sometimes amazes me that it's so many companies and organizations work like that, where there's, like a process like design thinking can help you to prevent you from going down that track.
And we'll get into a little bit of the teaching down the line, but I'd like to also introduce everyone who's watching this right now to Frisian C. Frisian C is a company that brings coached courses to high-performing leaders. And what we really want to do with our courses and the offering that we have is allow people to learn faster, to solve business problems faster, and also then to innovate. And that's why, design thinking is one of our courses. And it just fits so well because the world is growing exponentially. Things are changing. Technology is changing. Industries are being disrupted. And, we just can't keep up. So many organizations just aren't able to keep up nowadays. And the only way that we can is to start collaborating more and, harnessing the knowledge that is found throughout the world with people who know, who've been there, who've done that, who've found the solutions. And it's great to then be able to have a coaching conversation with an expert who can show you how to solve your current solution in your organization. And that is why we've created coached courses and also webinars with key experts in certain industries or for certain topics. So that's a little bit about Frisian C. And Rody, Rody is, as I mentioned earlier, he's an innovation and design thinking expert. He's been doing this for 15 years, working with many, many organizations, banks and hospitals and consulting firms. And tell me more, Rody. What industries have you worked with?
So I've been privileged to work around the globe, which gave me a lot of insights in different industries, in open courses and in company courses. I learn a lot. It's not only me doing trainings and facilitating, but also having conversations with delegates in trainings, meaning I can get some insights in different industries and see what happens. So that allows me to, also to improve the trainings, etc. But basically, it's very interesting to see how different job positions, different industries are facing challenges in innovation and design thinking. And actually, to be honest, it's quite similar in a lot of industries and a lot of companies. They all face similar challenges, like, what we have been talking about a little bit already, like how can we speed it up? How can we get buy-in from people in our company? How can we come up with better ideas and put the right ones forward, etc. So, and basically that's what we cover in most of the trainings, these topics.
Interesting that you say, because a lot of corporates will say we need something that's bespoke to our industry or to our specific business, and yet the challenges are the same. And the process or the mindset that needs to be adopted is actually the same. What types of roles do you think design thinking is important for?
Well, actually, it's hard to put it down to one specific role. And there's a few reasons, I think, for that. First one is that if you talk about innovation or change, and I like to use those words just mixed up, because it doesn't matter of what your language is as a company or as an individual. That's not from one department or one person. If you want to be adaptive and flexible in today's fast-changing world, ideally, the way of working and speed that we use in design thinking, it would be in the DNA of your whole company, which is not easy, but it's what your ambition, I think, should be. Which says it's not specifically something for a specific job title or department. So actually, innovation is also, in my opinion, not a department. It should be from the whole company. So that's what makes that is what makes it hard to say, okay, this is the job title you have to have, or the role that you have to play right now to start with design thinking. And I also see that from the trainings that we do. We get so many different job titles in. It can be anywhere from IT related people to senior management, marketing people, product developers, innovation managers. It's so different. The types of people and jobs job titles we get in. So I get this question a lot. Can't really not put it down to one specific role.
Okay.
Sometimes it starts with people or companies having an innovation manager or team that is being created to find out about how the whole organization could start innovation and speed things up, which is good. So I get people from those teams in with the aim to spread the way of working throughout the whole company. So, but it has to start somewhere.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, if I could maybe try and summarize, and you can tell me if this is right or wrong. So it's really just anyone who's trying to bring about a new project in an organization to get that, to understand what that project is, who it's for, to design what that project will entail, and then to sell it in to either get approved and then also to then implement that into the organization. So whether that is a change management process, like an internal change management process, that could be something. Whether that is a new product, that could be something where design thinking is used. Or maybe even, it's a new software, an internal, like an ERP software that needs to be implemented into an organization and adopted by the organization. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, basically design thinking is a process and a mindset to speed up your innovation and change efforts. And so whether it's a product, a service, or an internal process you want to develop or redevelop or get to market, doesn't matter. The way of working and the way of thinking applies to all those kind of situations. And as you mentioned, for example, software development, when I work with IT departments, those a lot of times are the departments working already with agile ways of working, like Scrum, or for example, and they want to learn. Okay, but what is the added value of a process like design thinking to what we already do? And what you see is that, for example, these agile processes, like Scrum, for example, are aimed at developing your product towards the end product in sprints. But in short, what the added value of design thinking here is, and this goes for any process similar to this, is it's focused on problem finding. So what could come out of design thinking in quite a quick way is to find out what the actual problem is you need to solve. And going through a design thinking process may give you your requirements that you need to have in your end product. And once you have your set of requirements, that could be a starting point, for example, for Scrum, because then you have your set requirements. Or if you want to put it into a process management process like waterfall or similar, which are quite fixed, they're not really open to changes. So if you want to make that process more efficient, doing a design thinking process before that, that can really help you to speed up also that process you already use. And overall, it will probably be shorter than what you are used to right now. So hopefully that was an answer to, to your question.
Absolutely. That was definitely a great answer. And I think one of the insights that I've had is that it's not just about a tangible product or a tangible something that design thinking can work for, develop. It's also about creating an improved process or an improved system, which is quite a great insight.
Yeah, but just very quick to address that. I know a big brand in the world is used design thinking for improving onboarding new employees, for example.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's
totally different than product development for clients, just an internal process, getting that better.
It's really quite clever, actually. All right, so maybe let's now start, Rody. Let's talk exactly about what design thinking is. Let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty. So maybe you can just give us an overview of what design thinking is.
Yeah. Well, design thinking, as I in short already addressed, is basically two things. It's a mindset, so a way of thinking, and it's a process. And the design thinking process comes from the company I mentioned called IDEO, product development in 80s and 70s, I think they did. And it's a way of working where you, which you can compare to product designers. So, for example, if you ask a product designer to design a new iron to iron your clothes, then what he or she will do is making a sketch, then create a very quick first 3D prototype with simple materials, hands it over to you, takes a look at how you're holding it. Is this holder big enough? Do I need to adjust here the grip a little bit more, or should the whole thing be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, etc.? So watching and learning, goes back to the drawing table, and then redo the design, improve it where necessary, gives it to you again, and this loop is what you go through over and over again. And basically that's what you also do in design thinking, but then, as we said, not just for products, but it can also be around services, processes, etc. To do a very quick first sketch, an idea based on interviews you do with people, some research, then implement a first draft, which is far from perfect actually, but on very small scale, to just test and learn and to then improve. And when you go through that cycle, that loop many times as quickly as possible, then in each loop you're improving and improving until you get to the final solution. So this is basically what the process is. And where the mindset comes in is that you have to allow yourself to not be perfect. A lot of people coming from traditional process management ways of working, and also from our schools basically, and how we are educated, is we have to do things right. And we don't feel comfortable with failure. Yeah. We are aiming for perfect. So in, for example, process management, a lot of times you say, okay, this is step one. And once we have done that the right way and are perfect, or as good as we can be, but close to perfect, only then we move on to the next step. And that's how you go in a linear process all the way to the end. Where what design thinking does is helping you to very quickly test your first ideas, being open to feedback and thus failure, and learn how not to do it, in order to allow yourself to improve very quickly, and then, well, as I explained, go through another loop and then develop in that way. Because what you see is a lot of times you learn a lot when you talk to people, to your possible user. If you go to next steps in the process, you get new insights because you allowed yourself to just move on. And that's what people in trainings always experience when they get stuck. So this is basically a little bit about the process and the mindset. And if you would take a close look to the process, it basically is a 5-step process where you go from empathizing with your target audience, which is step one. You go to defining an actual problem. What is the actual problem we need to solve? A lot of times overlooked by many organizations to put enough time in that problem phase. Once you have that problem, you move to ideation, to come up with new solutions and ideas. Then you move to prototyping your idea, which can be, by the way, very simple at first with just paper and cardboard, just very easy and quick, which you can test, which is the last step in the process with a target audience. And then it sounds maybe like a linear process, but on the way you will find that you, for example, when you have defined your problem, which is the second step, you do problem interviews with customers to find out if they recognize this problem. And there's a way to do that in a proper way. And you learn from that already and say, we thought the problem was this, but we may need to refine and adjust a little bit. And only then, if you've done that and you think you have the right problem, only then you start to ideate, for example. So you go back and forth in the whole process, which is called iteration. So basically, that's what design thinking is all about, the iteration, not having to be perfect in each step of the way. Even if you're in doubt, if you're on the right track, just move to the next step and you will get new insights by moving forward. And only then learn again and go back and refine where necessary. And that's the iteration in the whole process.
I think that's such a remarkable process. I mean, it seems very linear, but obviously when you're going through it, I'm sure there is this looping back, looping forward, testing, etc. But what I was just thinking is, when I was in corporate, and even now, operating the way that I do, and I'm sure this is exactly the same for many, many people, many organizations, is we start that process at step 3, which is the ideation. We start just brainstorming, thinking of things, or we come up with a great idea and then we think, let me do that. Let me implement that. And you're saying that there's actually 2 steps before that are so key to this process. And I think, what people will discover when they learn more about design thinking or even start this process in their organization is that those will probably be the most important steps. Am I right?
Definitely. People in organizations a lot of times think they know what the problem is they need to address, they need to solve, and start, just like you said, with step 3, ideation, coming up with solutions. And before you know, they fall in love with a solution very quickly, and they put that forward, and only to find out after they have spent a lot of time and burned a lot of money that it's not solving an actual problem and nobody is buying it or wants to use the service or the process that you came up with. So putting more time and effort in those first 2 steps, as you just addressed, is really key and is where the big gain is from this whole process. And it's not for nothing that you could say that design thinking is about problem finding at first. That's the key of design thinking. Of course, you go through the 3 steps with ideation and prototype and test to come up with a solution, but the focus is on problem finding. And it sounds easy, and it's maybe sounds even like an open door. Just as I said in the example of the big company with the paint and the mobile device, they fell in love with their solution, almost spent $500,000 to build it, but by just empathizing, which is step 1, with their target audience, internal employees on the product line, they found out it was not going to work. So in 1 hour. So spending more time and having your mind on finding the real problem is really where the biggest gain will be for any organization.
That's, that brings me to another story that I could share from experience is, you said people fall in love with ideas, and that is so, so true in large organizations. And I've found, very often there's ego attached to this brand new idea. And, everybody wants to have the big idea or to come up with that amazing idea. And then they latch onto it and they sell it like crazy and they use their position to get it approved. And then it just doesn't work. So can every business problem be resolved by this process, by this design thinking process?
I think that's a yes.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter what the issue is, what the topic is, how big, complex, or how small a problem is. Going through a process like design thinking can help solving I think any problem in your organization.
And I think what you've mentioned, though, is that it's about really defining that problem and getting down to the nitty-gritty and really understanding what that problem is. And then being able to move forward on the process. Okay, wow.
The problem can also be a problem or an issue or a pain point, or what you want to call it, within another department or in the board room. There can be an issue there, which can be tackled, so to say, by using design thinking as a mindset and a process. Definitely.
Okay, fantastic. So let me ask you this question. What is the one thing that you will give customers or share with customers watching this video that they'll be able to implement and start seeing results right now? Is there something that they could do or think, or share some big insight with us, please?
I think the biggest insight I can share, and what I share in trainings as well, is start small. That's basically, I can't make it any easier than that. But start small. I had recently had a training for a big hospital here in the Netherlands, and one of the delegates said, okay, when we do innovation, the way we used to do it is that it's big, and it takes a long time, and it costs a lot of money. So, and we had a big project with 1.5 million euros involved, going down the drain. So if we say innovation, everybody's going, oh, but we don't want to have all this money go down the drain again. And basically what it also, as I said, comes down to is make it small. Don't make it into a big project from day one. You want to start very, very small at low scale, with low risks, so that, well, at least you can get started. Because if you make it too big from day one, your project or your process, or whatever you want to call it, you need to get buy-in from someone, because someone has to say, okay, yes, you can spend this money, or yes, you can allocate your team to do this, or you can use a couple of weeks to work on it. Then it's very hard to get started, because if it's your initiative, if you see an opportunity, and this is what you're going to ask your manager or your boss or your decision maker, wherever you need to get buy-in from, then I know the answer. It will be no. It's very small. Everybody has some sort of, maybe a little bit of budget at hand, which doesn't necessarily means a lot. I mean, even without spending budget from day one, but just putting in a few hours to find out about a problem, etc., can be already very helpful. And start small, and then aim for first successes, because you get buy-in more easily when you can share successes than when you only go to your decision maker holding up your hand to say, I need time and money. And there's ways to keep it small and to come up with those first successes, and that's what we talk about in the trainings. But I can't stress enough, keep it small in every step of the way.
I think Albert Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. So exactly. Keep everything as simple as possible. And you make a great point as well to say, if individuals or teams can get a quick win on something using this process, then it's a much easier step to move on to a larger project, or a bigger budget, or to have more and more projects developed internally. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So the next thing that I really want to ask you is, what are some of the key challenges that individuals or teams face when they're implementing design thinking? And I think we've addressed some of them already, but let's talk about them, if there are any specifics that you've heard.
It resonates, I think, indeed with a couple of things we addressed in a different context. One of the things is, how do I get other people to join in this process? And another thing is, how do I get buy-in from C-level if they're not open to it yet, if there's no buy-in yet? And you do need that, because if there's no buy-in there, then you don't even have to start, because then it will, your whole process will be killed, so to say, at one point anyway. So you need to get buy-in at some point there. Another thing is having the right tools and skills in your team to be able to keep things small and to know what steps you have to take to go through a process like design thinking, and what tools can help you to do so.
And the process of design thinking can actually help you overcome all of those challenges that you've just mentioned. So even, getting buy-in at C-level, do you think just by understanding design thinking will help you to get buy-in? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's if I would say it like that, it sounds quite simple, and it maybe sounds like some sort of magic formula to get to this point. Of course, reality is different. It's not that easy, but having the design thinking mindset, to put it that way, and using design thinking to implement design thinking, as I said before, the way you can think of that in this context is, for example, in one training we had a guest speaker talking about getting buy-in from C-suite, so to say. And what he said, well, the CEO of this company, he never uses actually the word innovation. What his biggest problem is satisfying his shareholders every quarter with revenues and interesting new products or opportunities to keep them on board. So that was his pain point. So he said, we had an innovation team, but when I was using design thinking to find out about his specific problem, that was this. So I was thinking of a way, how can we help this CEO to satisfy his shareholders, which is a totally different question and has nothing to do with innovation. But his suggestion was to the CEO, what if you allow me to spend a maximum of $10,000 per quarter to come up with new opportunities and new product ideas and services with my team, so that you have a great story to your shareholders. And that's what they agreed on. But he found it out, this pain point with the CEO, by having this mindset of design thinking and finding out about his problem and his pain point and what the solution could be there.
Yeah.
And this is what his solution was, and which was fed by using his innovation team to come up with new product ideas and service ideas, etc. So this is the way you can be creative in using the way of thinking, but also the actual process and some of the tools he actually used, sitting down with the CEO, using some of the tools from the process and coming up with these insights. That's how he did it. And this is not magic. This is also not incredible, understandable math or something. It is it's quite easy, but you have to have the right tools and skills and way of thinking and creativity to work like that. So I think by having that, you can address any problem in a company and getting buy-in as a team or an innovation team or innovation manager to move forward. And it's not easy, but it can be done, and it takes time.
Yeah. So I think, Rody, what I'm hearing from you is two things. So firstly, design thinking and innovation is actually deliberate. It's a deliberate process, or even being aware of your mindset and working through that process, but deliberately. So nobody is inherently amazing at innovation. I think everybody needs to follow a certain process or to be aware of the thinking that's happening or the questions that they're asking, and to follow that process to be able to answer a challenge, which is quite a great thing to know, because a lot of people may be saying, well, I'm not very creative, or I'm not innovative naturally, so is this actually going to work for me? And you're saying that, really just by step one, empathizing with his CEO, he was then able to come up with a great solution that, he got buy-in from the CEO and was able to move forward.
And just to hop into what you say about not having to have a certain talent or something, it's interesting that you come up with that topic, because I get this in almost every training as well. That people say, I'm not the creative type, or I'm not the innovation type. Well, both are not talents, or that they are skills. And the good thing about skills is you can learn and develop those. And actually, if you look at the research that World Economic Forum, which probably a lot of our viewers and listeners will know, worldwide organization to improve world economics in very short. What they do is they do research every couple of years amongst companies around the globe and HR departments to find out what skills do these companies think employees will need in a few years from now in order to be able to be of value to the company. And what you see in the most recent survey they did is from, I think it was October 2018. You see that growing skills, as they put it, are place number one is innovation as a skill, and place number 3 is creativity as a skill. So that says something about what you just said. They are seen as skills. You can learn and develop those. So it's not for the creative people or the innovation type or whatever.
And I mean, those are the skills as well that the robots aren't going to take away from us in the future. They won't be able to. Those are the big skills that companies are now looking for, is that innovation and creativity and critical thinking skills. Those are going to be the skills of the future, which makes our course on design thinking that much more important for individuals. Yeah. So Rody, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I've had so many insights around design thinking and innovation, and I've really realized that it's an essential skill. It's a skill that can be learned and developed and improved, but it's essential for everyone in an organization, whether they're in a small business or even a big business. And it seems as though this skill, design thinking skill, the process and the mindset is going to be even more imperative as technology gets better and as the future just starts to unravel itself in front of our eyes. So before we wrap up, what I'd like to ask you is, we're going to be having another 2 videos that we'll be sharing with our viewers. What can they expect from you to share with them in the next video? What can we look forward to?
Well, as I said about the design thinking process, it's a 5-step process. So in the next video, we'll go through each step and to see what is actually the things you do in each step of that process, to get a bit of a feel of the actual activities you undertake in every step on the way towards your end product and your great solution, of course.
And Rody, I want to ask you, is there a secret or some interesting thing that we'll be sharing in the next video that you'll be sharing with our viewers?
Actually, one of the key things, as we discussed in this video, is that finding what the real problem is key. And once you have found that problem, how do you frame a proper problem statement? And there's a way to do that, which is the basis for your ideation, your brainstorming, which is step 3 in the process, as we have seen. So framing that problem and how you put it down on paper can really be of influence of your outcome. So there's a way to get that problem statement right, and how do you do that, and why is it the way that is? So that's something we can look at in the next video.
Fantastic. That will be really, really helpful and useful. And thank you. That'll be great. I will definitely be interested to know exactly how to frame those problem statements going forward.
So actually around this specific topic, this problem statement, you mentioned Einstein in this video, and we can take Einstein to our next video as well, because just around this specific topic, this framing this question, this problem statement, one of the quotes of Einstein is that he said, if I had 60 minutes to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes finding the problem and getting the right problem statement, and spend 5 minutes to solve the problem. So that says something about the importance of especially this part of the whole process. So it's not magic, but it's if you have this right, you get this right in your process, then this is one of the key elements in the whole process.
Fantastic. And thank you, Rody, for sharing so much with us today. It's been really insightful. I've learned so much about design thinking already, and I'm really eager to chat with you on the next video and to find out more that secret, or, well, you say it's not so secret and it's not so magic, but that really key process that we can use to define our problem statement. That will be quite great to know. Thank you, Rody. It was lovely to chat with you, and we'll see you on the next video.
Yeah, looking forward to that, and thanks for this one.
And don't forget, if you are watching this video, please send us a comment or a question if you'd like to know something specific about design thinking. Be sure to share that with us on our social media channels, or you can email us at hello@frisianc.co, and Rody will answer those questions in the next video too, just for you. We'll see you on the next video. Goodbye for now.